What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the BookMine Academy. In this first video, we're going to talk about sales rank, which, oh my gosh, Victor, is such an important metric. So, sales rank is just basically just going to tell us when books are selling and how often they're selling, when they're not selling. So, why is it so important, Victor?
Because if a book isn't selling, you don't want it. Basically,
it's simple as that, right?
Right.
If a book isn't selling, why would you ever want to buy the book, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we're just going to go over kind of what sales rank means. We're going to go over a definition. We're going to show you guys how you can determine with pretty good accuracy how often something is selling or how often a book is selling. When you guys are over here on BookMine, you guys are going to have a whole bunch of different books that are populating, and you'll see a little snapshot of a keepa graph here. And, if I just go to any one of these keepa graphs, like let's say if I go to this first keepa graph here, I'm going to go ahead and just make this super simple to start with and just get rid of all these very confusing things. We're just going to start with sales rank. So I'm over here. Let's just look at, for the range, let's look at the last day. And we can see that right now the sales rank of this book is actually 11,019. So what I'm actually going to do is go over to this book's product listing on Amazon and scroll all the way down to the product details and show you where that value comes from. So you can see 11,019 in books. So sales rank is just going to be a number, Victor. The lower that number, the better.
It's a snapshot.
It's a snapshot in time. It's essentially a ranking that's going to compare this book to every other book in that category. And the lower that number, the better. The higher the number, the worse. So 11,000 rank in books. Is that a pretty good sales rank?
That is an amazing sales rank. There is about 92 million books on Amazon. So if you think the 11,000 book, you're talking about the top 0.01%.
That's crazy, right? So think about that. There's 92 million books. Not even more than that, 92 million plus books. This is the 11,000th most popular book. That's actually insane.
Yeah, run into one of the most popular books.
Right, exactly. So, on BookMine, we have a selling meter at the bottom here. So the closer you get to 1, the higher the sales ranks are going to be. And the closer you get to 10, the lower the sales ranks are going to be. So let's take a look at this book, for example, here. We can actually see if we do the same thing on this graph. Let's get rid of these other features. And we just go and take a look at the last day and see that right now the sales rank is 1,111,111. Wow, that's crazy. All ones. That's incredible. Again, we can scroll down to the product detail page and you can see that number is scraped right here from the Amazon webpage. So, is this book going to be selling more frequently or less frequently than the other one we just looked at?
I mean, this is pretty easy to tell. It had way less frequently. I mean, this is maybe a couple of times a month, where the other one was basically 10 to 20 times a day.
Right. So if you take a look at this graph, this Eugene Smith book that we just clicked on from BookMine, you can see that there are quite a number of sales rank drops here. Okay, so that's kind of the next thing that we want to get into is that sales rank drops. You can think of those sales rank drops as sales. Okay, so maybe just to make this more simple, let's look at the last month. You can see that for this book in the last month, there's actually been 4 sales rank drops. And what we mean by that is whenever you see the sales rank improve dramatically in number, so it drops from a high number to a low number, like in this case, from 2 million all the way down to 242,000. That's a massive drop in value. You can think of that as the book becoming more popular. In other words, the book has actually has sold. Now you can actually see another sales rank drop right here. So you can see the sales rank actually goes up in value because it's not selling. It's at 271,000 and then it drops again down to 166,000. That's actually 2 sales rank drops. And then you can actually see how that value goes up. And why would this sales rank be going up over time? Like what's happening in this next week period, Victor?
Well, so for the next week, it just keeps on getting a higher and higher sales rank because it's not selling. So it's now in the 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 million until again, there in the beginning of January, it sells again.
Okay. And then what's going to happen here?
It goes in for an even longer period of time. And now I imagine we're up to 1.6, 1.7 million until it then drops again. I usually love to tell my students that these are heartbeat. So the more drops are heartbeats, and you want a book that's alive, right? You want beats happening. And so that represents sales.
Exactly. So you can see, what would you say, Victor? Over the last year, does this book sell?
Oh yeah. It's definitely a book I'm interested in.
Yeah, it's definitely a book that sells. And, that's going to kind of go to our next point, which is counting drops is a way for us to estimate how many sales are happening in a specific period of time. So, we just looked at the last month for this book. We said, okay, we see about 4 improvements in sales ranks. We see about 4 heartbeats or 4 drops. I think a reasonable assumption is, okay, here's a book that sells around 4 times per month. Why is it so important to know if this book sells 4 times a month or 40 times a month?
When you see a price and you're really interested in it, now you need to know how many books you should buy. If this book is only selling 4 times a month, you should only be buying 1 book. Now, if it sells 40 times a month, maybe you should be buying 5 to 10 copies of that book. So that's why you need to know that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're going to have to, ultimately, when you're on BookMine and you're finding amazing deals, there might be one copy available, 3 copies, 5 copies available, but you always have to think about the velocity, meaning how quickly the book sells, how often the book sells, how many times it sells. And obviously, for books that have more sales rank drops, more heartbeats, more drops, that would mean the book is selling more frequently. You could potentially sell more. Now, what I hope you see with all these snapshots of these keepa graphs is all these keepa graphs are looking at a 6-month period, and you could probably count these, right, Victor? I mean, you could almost count the number of drops. And so books where you can count the number of drops, those are books that, they're definitely selling, but they're not selling amazingly. They're not selling all the time. And so again, what we could do is, we could reset our data here on BookMine, and we can go to selling meter, and we can go up to like 7 to 10. And what are you starting to see with these keepa graphs here with that green sales rank line?
Vast difference than what we just saw. Basically, there's no way you're going to be able to count this. This could go from a couple of sales a day to, 20 or 30 sales a day, depending on how low that sales rank stay.
Right, absolutely. And so now we're looking at sales rank where you actually see, like Victor said, it's going to be hard to count these drops because they're happening so frequently. It might not be possible. For example, here, kind of right in the middle of January textbook season, and you can see that the sales rank number, right, it's getting super low. It's getting into the 20,000s. And once you get that low, it's almost going to be impossible for you to count sales rank drops. And all you really need to know is that, out of the 92 million books, this book is popping off. This book is selling a lot, right?
Right.
Victor, by the way, what's something that you kind of notice happening for this book in sales rank right around August, September, and right around January here?
So this is a key giveaway that's a college textbook because it both has a August textbook season and a January textbook season. So the lots more demand are happening in those 2 seasons.
Right. So you're seeing a stereotypical U shape, and that U shape is just indicating, hey, sales rank is improving during that time. And Victor, if we kind of zoom out to 2020, what do you kind of notice with sales rank at same time, January, July?
Repetitive. Every year you can count on this book selling in January and in August.
Right. Now, does this book sell outside of that time?
Oh, yeah. It sells quite often, but during that time, it's selling a couple of 100 times a day when like the rest of the season, it's selling maybe, 1 or 2 times a day.
Yeah. Counting sales rank drop, it's not a perfect science, right? All it is an estimate. And so if you look at any book on BookMine, like let's say we take a look at this book right here, you can actually see that, over the last, let's say month or 3 months, we can say over the last month, there's essentially like 2 sales rank drops. So we would think that would mean 2 sales. If we could look at the last 3 months, we can see that there are more sales rank drops. But the reality is that it's not as easy as just 1 sales rank drop is equal to a sell, because often a book can sell multiple times in a given day or even in an hour, and that could be represented by 1 sales rank drop, right, Victor?
That's right. And we also have to recognize that this is not Keepa's data; it's Amazon's data, and so we're dependent on Amazon giving Keepa this data, and sometimes it's not 100% complete.
Right. But what I'll say is that if you're watching this video, you're probably somebody who's new to Keepa, and it's great that you're watching this video because these videos are going to help you make way better sourcing decisions. In the beginning, I want you all to think of sales rank drops as sales, where you could actually count them. So between October 1st and November 1st, you could say that's probably 1, that's probably a second sell right there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you could count those and say, okay, now there's an estimate that book is selling right about 9 times, okay? Now again, when the sales rank improves, meaning its number gets way lower and the book becomes more popular, it's going to be a lot more difficult for us to be able to count those sales and to honestly even know how often it's selling. But just know that when the sales rank starts getting really, really low like that, that means it's really, really doing well. It's popping off and it's a book that's selling well. Now, one other really important thing I want you guys to see with sales rank is that, especially for some of the books that you'll find in BookMine that have, that's kind of lower on the selling meter, 1 to 2 drops, in a given time period. Sometimes when you get books that don't sell very often, that are not very popular, sometimes the sales rank won't actually drop when the book sells. And I actually have a perfect example from a book that I just recently sold. So I'm going to go and show you this book called Picasso, The Line. This is an amazing book. I just sold it recently. Let me actually go to my orders tab here on Seller Central. You can see that this book just sold 3 days ago for $179.99. And I actually bought this book on April 27th of the previous year, 2023. This is a book that if you look at the Keepa graph, let me get rid of all these other things. If you look at the sales rank on this Keepa graph, I mean, how many times has the sales rank dropped in the last year, Victor?
You can easily tell just twice.
Yeah, so just twice, right?
To me, that book is only sold twice.
It's only sold twice. But remember, everyone, that when I bought this book, it was April 27th, 2023. So I could actually zoom in April 27, 2023. That's actually when so we're looking at the used price. That's going to be the next video in the series, but we're looking at the used price. It dropped from $250 all the way down to $32.78. That's what I bought the book at. But notice, Victor, what didn't happen?
There was no sales rank drop. There was no heartbeat. So it doesn't look like that actually happened.
Right. So the point we're trying to make here is that counting sales rank drop is going to get you very far, because if you can see a graph on BookMine and you can see a bunch of sales rank drops, then you could, rest assured that's a book that's selling, right, Victor? But just know that technically sales rank can get very nuanced. And as you guys get into the intermediate phase and the advanced stage, you guys, once you have a little bit more keepa knowledge, you'll start to understand that sales rank is just a snapshot in time, that keepa, that Amazon is feeding the sales rank data to keepa, and that keepa can't be perfect. So all we can use sales rank is just an estimate of how often something's selling. And I hope what you guys are getting from this is that, anything that on the selling meter on BookMine is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, those are products, right, Victor? Those are books that are moving super fast, right?
Those are moving really quickly.
All right. So you can see all of these sales rank, those green lines are up and down. The heartbeats are amazing. You see a lot of seasonality and U-shaped pattern with them, but then don't necessarily skip those books that have fewer sales rank drops, because often, Victor, those books can just be very rare or niche books that have a lot of value, but just don't sell.
Correct. There's some really gold gems in there, like books that you can buy for $5 and sell for like $150.
I mean, there's amazing books that you'll find here with BookMine scores of 4, 5, and 6 that, like I said, they don't sell all the time, but some of my favorite flips are buying books for under 15, flip them for 50, 60, 70. Like, it's definitely possible, and you guys are going to run into them all the time on BookMine, especially if you're looking at those lower selling meters. So that's kind of sales rank basic there. Do you think there's anything else that we really need to add here, Victor, before we head off onto the next video?
No, I think just, the green line is very important. Make sure you always check out how many sales a book is having. Otherwise, you could have a book that maybe looks like a really great book, but actually selling, and you're going to just be holding on to it for years.
Right. So this next video that we're going to look at, just to give you a little sneak peek and tell you why you should look at the next video, is because it's great to know, Victor, if a book is selling, but just knowing if the book is selling or not doesn't mean that we should buy the book, right? I mean, there's books out there that sell 50 times a day, but if they only sell for $3, are we interested in buying that book?
No.
Not at all, right?
Exactly.
So sales isn't the only thing we have to look at. We also have to be able to determine, well, what is the book selling for? What is the book's intrinsic value? And so that's what we're going to investigate in the next video. So if you enjoyed this one, you found it useful, you're definitely going to find the next one useful. So see you guys on the next video.
See you soon.